Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second episode of the Friday Property Clinic. On this episode, we're looking at the process of once you've got your piece of land and now you're looking to build on it. On this episode, myself and Natasha will be speaking to ITWI, who is an architect and very well versed in this area. Before we go into that, I just wanted to say thank you so much to you all for your positive response on the first episode that we did. We got a lot of good feedback from everybody. You're really pleased with the content that we put together. And I just wanted to say, if you have any other questions that you think that you would like covered in the Friday Property Clinic, please be sure to contact us, send us an email, and we'll happily put together an episode if we feel that it's going to be useful to everybody. Returning back to this episode, I just wanted to say hi to Natasha and ITWI, who are over in Zambia. Hi guys, how are you doing?
We're good. We're fine, thanks.
How are you?
How are you?
Very good, thank you very much. So just to get the ball rolling, the topic that we're covering today is I have a piece of land, I want to build on it, and where do I start? So Natasha, if you want to take over and then go through the discussion process.
Sure. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for being here, ITWI.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so we're dealing with a lot of people in the diaspora, and many people have a piece of land and they want to build on it. So what's the first thing they need to think about?
Well, the first thing you need to do is have the title deeds. This will show that you actually own the piece of land that you're planning your project on.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then what happens if, let's say I have a survey diagram, or maybe I have a letter of offer from the council or from Ministry of Lands, or maybe even a letter of sale from the person who sold me this piece of land?
Well, considering the length of the process and everything that needs to be done, that's not good enough. Mm-hmm. No, you need to actually have the deed. Because there have been a lot of situations where people have been hoodwinked and they end up not owning the land and so on. And in any case, your architect will advise you that once all the drawing phases are completed and you're going to apply for building permission, the planning authority will need to have a copy of your deed with your application. So you have to have it. If you only have the diagrams and so on, talk to Natasha and she'll get you your deeds.
Good advice. Okay, so if I have the title deed, then what's the next thing I should be thinking about?
When you have your deeds, you will obviously have to start thinking about your budget, although normally maybe before you even got to getting your deeds, you'd have thought about it. You need to consider what kind of project it is. Is it low, medium, or high cost? And then you need to think about how you're getting your financing, the project period, and...
Sorry, ITWI, I just want to interject there. You mentioned something really important, low, medium, and high cost project.
Yes.
How much does it really cost to build? Because I think a lot of our viewers will want to know that.
That's a very good question. And you are right, a lot of people do ask that. And I always ask them, how much does it cost to buy a shirt?
Right.
I don't know if you're buying from Marks & Spencer or if you're wearing Versace. It really varies.
Okay.
But as a ballpark, a guide, on average, you would look at, for a low-cost project, you'd look at spending $150 to $300 per square meter.
Okay.
And then around $400 to $550 for medium cost. And $600 to up to $750 per square meter for a high cost project.
Oh, okay, all right. And you mentioned the project period. How long does it take to build? If I want to do something modest, let's say a 2-bed, 3-bedroom apartment or house, how long does that take?
A very simple basic build would take around 6 months, but project durations can vary.
Sure.
But just to answer your question briefly, that's the time period that you'd be looking at.
Okay. Now, what if I have financing constraints? Yeah. So I might have things that come up, and suddenly the money I thought I had for the project, I don't have.
That could be a difficult situation, but it's very important, because I think the next thing which you're going to do is look for an architect. It's very important to be very honest with your architect about your budget for the project, because then they can help you design and manage your project in such a way that it fits your budget. For instance, in a situation where you have a certain amount of money available at a particular time, we could probably design it in such a way that it's constructed in phases.
Okay.
So
now you mentioned engaging an architect. Why should I engage an architect? You know, because architects, it's an expensive proposition.
a lot of people say that, but an architect actually saves you money. I say that because the architect during the project will consider a lot of things that you as a, you know, as an everyday person will not consider. I know a lot of people will say man has been building their own home since time immemorial, but that was a skill that was passed down from generation to generation.
Right.
My dad didn't teach me how to build. You know, you have to go to school for about the same time as a doctor to learn how to design the living environment.
Yeah.
And you also have to realize that a building evokes emotion. You know, the kind of spaces that you're in will kind of, you know, bring something out of you. So when only an architect would understand the use of these spaces, the circulation.
Right.
You think about the services, everything going in, the plumbing, the electrical supply, and so on. Whereas a client would just see a pretty picture and just say, I want that, and not understand everything that goes into creating it.
Yes. And then also, it's a big undertaking, isn't it? You know, when you're building, it's not cheap.
No.
So an architect can actually help you protect your investment.
You're absolutely right, because I mean, it's practically the biggest investment you're ever going to make. It's more expensive than most cars. And it's not something that you're going to change every day or every year. You know, you really, a lot of time and thought goes into planning a building project. And so you want it done right. You don't want to trust this to your own layman ideas.
Yeah. Can an architect help you manage the project?
Yes.
When construction starts?
Yes, an architect can help you manage it to make sure, obviously, that all the budget, you stay within budget, and also that the construction is carried out during the time that you need it to be carried out.
Okay, so I've got my title deeds. I've found a registered architect. I've told him how much money I have, what my budget is. What's the next thing?
That's a very important thing. You have to find yourself a registered architect, because the profession is governed by a regulatory body, and that also helps protect you as going forward, as opposed to using a relative, as you had said in the previous episode.
Yes.
So once your architect is engaged and he has understood your requirements, he will design a project based on that discussion. And the first drawings that you'll produce are design drawings, and these are to help you get a look and feel of the actual project when it's completed. These are usually 3D models.
Oh, okay, the fancy ones that we see.
Yes, some will even give you a nice little walkthrough.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so these are destined for the client, so that you understand, you get a proper feel. And sometimes it can be as detailed as interiors, where all the interiors are done, furnishing and so on. So when you're happy with that, with the concept, then the architect will prepare the construction drawings. And these are a lot more technical. These are now the drawings that will tell the builder exactly how to build the project. And these drawings also go to the planning authority, where you apply for building permission.
Okay. I'm just interested, ITWI, to know, are there ways that you can save money in terms of building costs? And does this come out in the process? At what point do you address those things?
It's a very good question, because right from the design aspect, and going right back to the first point I made about being honest with your architect, when you tell your architect your budget constraints, say the average house costs 200 kwacha to build, and you tell your architect you only have 100. So you're challenging your architect to be able to produce on that budget.
Right.
And so it would be important for the architect to know the different building techniques and different materials that can be used to help you meet your project, your budget, just meet your budget and complete your project. And it could be simple things like the difference between using clay tiles and a metal roof, or porcelain tiles to just a simple polished concrete floor finish. And it's all about how it's done, because a lot of these materials that you would consider inferior, like including metal roof sheets, if you go online and have a look, you can see how a lot of materials can be used in a modern way, and which can be really stunning.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent. Okay, so tell us now about the team that you want to put around you to make sure you've got an efficient project that is done on time and within budget?
Again, you need to look at this is also during the design process and during the preparation of the construction drawings. It also varies with the scale of the project. There are other players that can be involved in creating the project team, such as a quantity surveyor who will help keep the costs, help you monitor the costs more accurately. There are various types of engineers depending on the type of project that you're doing. There's of course the contractor, and then there's a project manager, or the architect can double as a project manager depending on how you want the project managed.
So if we're looking at a low to medium cost project, I'm sure we don't need an engineer and all of that.
You could say there are double story structures, and say there are areas that are damp, or marshy, or that need extra drainage, and then it really does vary on the type of project.
Now, how does one go about choosing the right contractor? Because contractors come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
That's very true. And again, the tendency is to just pick up someone that you just heard about without doing a due diligence. Again, just like with finding an architect, there's a list of, like I said, there's a list of architects. I didn't say that actually. There's a list of architects with the Institute of Architects, which is the regulatory body, and the same applies with the NCC, which governs.
That's the National Construction Council.
Exactly. That governs the building practice, and so you can get a registered builder.
So contractors are actually registered and regulated.
Yes, they are.
Can I interject? Sorry, guys, can I interject and ask? So if I was to look and find somebody on this list, is it something I can quite easily do online, or do I need to be able to phone up somebody in Zambia to find that information?
You might have to call someone. I haven't, it's not regular, unfortunately, it's not regularly updated. But then there are some, for the Institute of Architects, they publish it regularly in the print media. So but that's difficult for someone that's in the diaspora to access.
But I think for most of these organizations, they do have websites. So you can get on their website, get their contact details and call them. Yes, Okay, now you introduced a new term. Well, it's maybe not so new, but what does a project manager do, and how do they help in this process? You said an architect can double up, but what does a project manager do?
The main role of the project manager is to make sure that the project advances within that time, the time that has been designated for the project. He's basically making sure all the different aspects of the project work together. It's, for instance, you have several subcontractors on the project. At a certain point, you need the electrician to come on board, and you need him to be there at that time. Otherwise, it will delay the next part of the process and so on. You might have a project where you are installing a home security system, so you need to know when they're coming in to install all the technical equipment that needs to go in there. So the manager is the one that makes sure that everyone is there when they need to be there, including the architect, because he needs to come in at certain periods to carry out inspections and make sure that the building is going according to plan.
Okay, good. So I've got this fantastic team, and what happens after that?
Well, we check with the council or the planning authority, and look, you have your planning permission, so you're ready to go on site.
Okay, now what happens if I start building without planning permission? You know the council, things take long, it's very bureaucratic, I want to start today.
They will come and knock down the structure because it's an illegal structure. It is an illegal structure.
So they can knock it down.
Yes, they can, and they do.
And they do.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to be sure that all the legal aspects are covered before you go onto site. Your architect will advise you. There are certain ways to deal with the long waiting period.
Okay. All right. Now, one thing our audience really wants to know is, how do I have peace of mind? I'm in Texas or I'm in Paris. How do I know that things are going according to plan? When people move on site and they actually start building.
Right. Then the best situation is where you have a project manager or your architect, depending on the scale of the project, who is handling the day-to-day running of the project. That's pretty much what the manager does.
Okay.
And he will report to you periodically.
How often?
Let's say with the actual running of the project, it could be anything to minimum, let's say, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Every
So I
2
get a
weeks.
report, an update every 2 weeks?
You could, yes. And then a financial report monthly. Again, it really does vary with, you know, the pace of the project and the stage at which the project is, because some stages go
Faster.
they take longer than others.
Yeah. Like which stage would you find really takes long?
Foundations, because after you dig them, you pour your concrete, then you wait for it to dry, and then you start to build your foundation walls, and then the walls come up really quickly.
Okay, yeah.
And then the roofing takes some time again.
Now you mentioned, sorry.
The finishes take the longest.
Oh, okay, all right. You mentioned finances.
Yes.
So who do I send money to if I'm away? Do I send money to my uncle? Do I send it to the contractor? Do I send it to the project manager? Who am I sending money to? And at what point?
As I had said, there were different milestones in the project. So the amount of money you would be sending would be for that particular milestone. Now, who to send it to?
But so I don't need to send everything up front?
No.
Okay.
No, that's never the case, as far as I know. No,
Right.
because even with the money that you send, what you're paying the contractor, an amount of it is retained during what's called the defects period at the end of the build, where yes, if there are any snags or anything that's any defects in the build, they will be under obligation to come and fix them before they get their final payment. And then during the process of the project, the architect will also have to issue certificates to say that the construction had been done according to specification, and before any payments are made.
Okay.
And your question was, who do you send the money to? You can send it to the manager. The manager can handle the finances and make sure that everyone is paid accordingly. And like I said, he will be reporting to you with the financial report of how the project is progressing.
Excellent, excellent.
Sorry, if I felt a little bit insecure, could I make those payments myself to the contractors? So as long as the project manager says we've completed this payment is due, can I still make those payments myself?
I don't see why not, especially in a situation where it's a simple payment, say you're dealing with one contractor. Okay, but then if you're dealing with a lot of, the manager is actually there to try and help you reduce the headache of having to pay all these different contractors. Now, we've taken a situation where you have to pay 6 subcontractors and you happen to be busy that day and for a week, or you have to go out of town or something happens, then nothing happens on site. The project stalls. And that could lead to a delay in the project, which would lead to extra costs, because that's a period of time where the contractors are either still on site or they'll have to leave and then remobilize, come back to site. So it's all those things that you try to avoid.
Yeah.
So now we've gone on site with a good team and the construction is finished. You mentioned something, defect period. What is that? Can you say more about that?
Let's say the project is completed and your keys are handed over, you come into your building, and then you find that the door handle is fiddly. All right. The project you have just moved into the house. There's no reason why the door handle should be fiddly. You get in touch with your architect or the contractor directly, and they will come and fix it. Okay. So that's covered in the defects period, and it varies because there are some situations where a project is occupied before completion.
Okay.
Yes. So again, your architect will advise you and explain to you exactly what the periods are.
Okay. Fantastic. I think for myself, I learned a lot.
Okay, good.
Yes, and I can see how it's really important to have a team of professionals to help you stay within budget and deliver a quality product. Yeah, so thanks very much.
My pleasure. Okay.
Well, that was really informative. Thank you. That was really informative. I think what would be really good is if we can just summarize some of those bits that you said, so just so that we go through it in bullet points so that people kind of have it fresher in their minds. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, I'm just going to share a set of slides and then we can run through those slide decks. Just let me know when you can see my screen, please.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay.
Right, so the first thing that we said you need is to have your title deeds, which show that you actually own the land. Then you need to be sure of your budget, know what kind of project you're going to embark on, whether it's low, medium, or high cost. You need to have some idea of the project period and where you're getting your financing from and what kind of constraints that you might have financially. The big question, why engage an architect when a lot of people think they can do this on their own? But the architect is a professional. They bring in a huge skill set. They will help resolve situations and issues that you might not have thought about, like circulation, the use of space, services, different types of materials to use. And they will actually protect your investment because of the expertise, and they will work within your budget and can also help manage your project.
Design drawings.
The architects will then produce 2 sets of drawings. The first drawing and the first set are the design drawings, and these are not just drawings. They could be video slide walkthroughs. They could be any kind of animations, anything that would help you get a good sense of the look and feel of the project. And then the next set of documents they produce are the construction drawings, which are the technical details of the project that are used to estimate the costs and used by the contractor, as well as applying for planning permission, building permission. The project team will be assembled during the design process, and it will involve the contractor, quantity surveyor, engineers, when need be, the project manager or architect.
All of whom are registered and qualified.
All of whom are registered and qualified. Once that is done and you check with the planning authority for your building permission, once you have your building permission, you're ready to move on site and start to build.
Sorry about
that. During the build, you will want your build managed to make sure that it's carried out effectively. For that, you can use your project manager or architect. Remember that there are milestone payments to be made during the different phases of the project as it progresses, and expect regular reporting from your manager or architect. And remember that there's a defects period during which you will retain part of the contractor's payment and make sure that all defects are taken care of.
Thanks for that, ITWI. Thank you for that summary.
And
for anyone watching, if they want more information, our website is up there. It's buyingpropertyinzambia.com, and my contact details were also there, and we'll be sharing ITWI's contact details as well. Tanya?
Excellent, thank you very much. I had a bit of a technical issue there with the slides, but just if people are interested in the slides, they're going to be on our website, so you can download them and go through them anyway. But yes, thank you very much for your time, ITWI. Thank you very much, Natasha, as always. And hopefully, ITWI, maybe we'll have another part 2, and you can come back and tell us a little bit more in another area. So that would be really good. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to.
Cheers. Thank you very much, guys. I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, bye.
So everyone, until our next episode in 2 weeks' time. Thank you. Bye.